Welcome to Autonomy Quest. Tonight we're going to talk to autonomy graduates. We'll do a brief interview and then they'll answer your questions about our experiences at autonomy. My name is Carl Nieberding, and I just wanted to check, James, did you have something to say before we kick off?
Yeah, I was just going to say, welcome to Autonomy Quest. Um, welcome to, during this event, you'll meet two graduates. They will be performing an interview that will help you choose whether or not autonomy is right for you. The interview skill translates into the sales skill, which is a problem-solving skill set, not pushing, persuading, convincing, or conniving, but just learning how to make contact, listen, make a better plan, and understand people, and then help them move forward. We teach this skill in autonomy because it's the key to meeting the others who have the answers to the questions that you need to overcome with your issues, for your issues. It's ethical sales and objective marketing in an ethical framework. And it starts with learning how to meet and greet people, doing the interview exercise, which also builds out the community. And it's a wonderful way to start off the course when you get started. Tonight we have Carl Nieberding and we have Richard Chang. Carl is going to be performing the interview, and Richard will be on the answering the questions side. So, without any further ado, we can bring in those guys, Carl and Richard. Take it away, Carl.
Thank you, James. I actually
Thanks,
met
James.
James at PorkFest last summer, which a lot of us in autonomy go to in New Hampshire every year and go camping for a week and cook up some burgers. So it's really good to see James again, and welcome to all of you. And Richard, it's very nice to meet you. So Richard is a
Nice
season
to meet you as well.
12 graduate, like one of our
Fresh.
newest graduates. Yeah, like right out into the world. And my name, as James said, is Carl Nieberding. I'm a season 9 graduate, so that's like 2 years ago now at this point, because autonomy has 2 seasons a year. And just briefly before I jump into the interview, one of the things I got from autonomy most is doing live events like this. I didn't used to be comfortable on camera, on Zoom meetings, much less leading an interview, a podcast, or anything like that. And that's just one of the skills you can learn in autonomy. And if you stick around to the end, you'll get a chance to ask your own questions to Richard. So as Richard's talking, just jot down any thoughts you might have so you're ready for that portion. And at the very end, we have a few gifts from you from Richard Grove, more content and ways to learn about autonomy and critical thinking and improving your mindset. So again, welcome, Richard. And could you just briefly tell me about yourself and how you discovered autonomy before we jump in?
All right. How I discovered autonomy, let's go into that first. I've been listening, or I started listening to Grand Theft World around 2020, 2021. And I'm not really sure how I got started or how I found Grand Theft World, but I've after listening to it, just a couple episodes, they're really long. If you guys don't know, it's Richard Grove who has like a deep dive into the history behind a lot of current events, and it kind of gives you the context of current events from what's happened in the past. And so he summarizes kind of the news in the past weekend. It was a huge light bulb moment. Opened up my eyes. I've always thought something was kind of awry, but I couldn't really place a finger on it. And listening to Richard Grove and Grand Theft World, like I said, opened up my eyes, and I was really able to see what was going on. I mean, my scope is very limited, my understanding is very limited, but to know that there was something that I thought was wrong, but was great. And so, while listening to Grand Theft World, I heard Richard Grove talk about autonomy and how it was like a sales skills, but also just like how to level up in general in life. And I feel like he didn't really push it that hard in Grand Theft World, and I was always curious about it and thought one day I would take it, just wasn't sure when I would take it. And I'm not sure what really pushed me over the edge. I just finished a couple of weeks ago, And
Why don't we talk about where you were at in your life journey? Like
yeah,
before you took autonomy, where were you in your career, your personal life, and what would you feel you were stuck on before you joined?
good point. So we had a family business that we got out of in 2018, and after that we had a good break, and so we had time to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And so actually, and in that time, sorry, here's my daughter. And so in 2018, I was, after getting out of that family business, I was kind of stuck in to see, well, what do I want to do for myself? The family business was something I was kind of dragged into, and I always wanted to do something on my own and for myself, but I just wasn't sure what that would be or how I even go about it. How I even go about finding something to do. And that was about from 2018 to earlier last year, in about mid 2024, that I found something that I wanted to do. And when I started it, I was like, oh well, I'm marketing. Like everything, buying the product, sourcing the product, buying the product is easy, but then I can't just flip a switch and sales come on. And then I got really stuck during in marketing and sales. And I know Grove talked a lot about sales a little bit during Grand Theft World and how autonomy teaches sales. I'm like, well, probably need that, or else if you have a product and no customers, it's kind of useless.
Yes, I had a technical background in computer science and design. I'd never learned marketing or sales, but to work on your own, those are the skills you need. What was your educational background, and was it natural for you to be in business? And yeah, like what were you conscious of that aspect you were missing, like the sales and marketing, or was it something else?
My background is also in like technical, like IT related, semi computer programming, or I think they tried to sell it off as how to use IT systems to enable businesses, kind of like IT consulting. And so sales prior to the course was, you just think of like used car salesman. You're just trying to squeeze out every last dollar. You're trying to, get one up the other side. It's all about the money. And so I've never really had an interest in sales. And when growing up, you see some kids selling like Cutco knives, where you kind of go door to door and sell knives or similar products like that. And I was like, man, that I could never do that. I just don't have that thick skin, fortitude.
Right. So, as you were getting started with autonomy, there's the sales and marketing. Were there other personal aspects of yourself or other specific goals you wanted to accomplish during the program? And how did autonomy help you put your dream into action?
I think the main thing was the reason why I joined Autonomy was to learn some marketing and sales, and also just to find a community of like-minded individuals. After 2020, after COVID, I think a lot of relationships have changed, and it's sad to not have what you once thought were your best friends, like quote unquote blood brothers. You would live and die for each other, and all of a sudden that's just vanished. And I had the silly notion in my head that, okay, well, whatever, we'll just do it all alone. I can do this by myself and do that by myself, but then you realize you really can't do everything all alone, and you need people to rely on. You need people to help, and not able, conversing with some of the old friends who has that elephant in the room. It's difficult to get to the next to get to that level of trust anymore, that level of closeness, I guess you would say. And so the community was something that I wanted more than I even marketing or sales. It'd be great if it was local to me, but yeah, that's we can do one step at a time. And Yeah, but the marketing, obviously there's a lot of community. There's a lot of graduates, and even the season 12 when I was in, everyone's great. Everyone I talked to was great. Everyone, we had interview exercises, and everyone's very respectful. Everyone's willing, even if they disagree with your ideas, they're not gonna. There's no ad hominem attacks. There's no name calling. It's very rational, or everyone's willing to entertain an idea, as Richard Grove puts it, without accepting it. Like, you don't have to accept it, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Or
Yeah.
I think that's really huge. Just that mutual respect.
Yeah. And that's hard to find, right? I know Grand Theft World has a town hall like every other week, so there's a bit of community there. Did you know about the extent of community you would get coming into autonomy, or were you
No.
more where most people just are aware of Richard and think of Richard giving the lectures? They miss the larger community. So it sounds like even though it's not in your local area, you were able to connect with like-minded people even during these times of relative isolation. And yeah, as I mentioned, like we'll meet up at Pork Fest or other freedom types of events.
Mhm.
But let's go back to the sales process. How would you define autonomy's version of the sales process? And you mentioned interview exercises in the community. Could you talk a little bit about that and how it's different than your preconceived notions of sales that had held
Mhm.
you back before?
I guess my prior knowledge of sales was very limited to, what you see on mainstream media, what you see in the movies. And so it wasn't a very good image doing sales and marketing. And so it's just not something that I never really wanted to engage. But getting into the course, learning what sales actually should be, or what you can have ethical sales. You don't have to squeeze every last cent from the other side, and having a win-win sales situation. I think that was sounds silly, but it's like, duh, like of course we're gonna do that. I'm sure that happens all the time. And another revelation was, I feel like when I was younger, uh it's you just taught, oh, it's like a dog eat dog world, or it's a zero sum game. If you're gaining, someone else is losing. And I think that's you never really think about what that means, or if that's actually true. You just say, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And learning that's, or revisiting that idea, unpacking it, and saying, wow, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I think was really huge. And just the fact that you can. And so there's the sales training workshop every Tuesday night, and I think I've gained numerous value from that, a lot of value. And he goes on. Phoenix also talks a lot about uh, ethical sales. I'm trying to word this right. Ethical sales, as in, I feel like when I was younger, I always kind of gave in a little bit I wasn't doing sales, but I was, every transaction is almost sales. And I kind of always gave in a little bit, or I always let the other side take a little bit more. Or I just always wanted to have everything even, or at least somewhat, quote unquote, fair as fair can be. And I would hear that, oh, you're just wasting your time, or you're just wasting your money. You're just why don't you take more from the other side? Well, how come he or she, the other side, could pay more, be willing to pay more? Well, why don't you just take it? And that to me just never sat well. And so I think that's one of the reasons that turned me off from sales and marketing in general. But now hearing Richard Grove talk about it, and then Phoenix, who teaches the Tuesday night sales workshop, talking about, well, that's what sales kind of should be. It should be, you want to deal with people of excellence. You want to deal with people who aren't going to squeeze every last penny and dime out of you. And then you don't, just because other people might do that to you doesn't mean you want to do it to them. And if you're doing that to other people, you're never going to find those people who are going to treat you fair. And so I just huge mind blown moment. That's something that's maybe should be obvious, if you really sit down and think about it. But a lot of things, I guess, I should spend time and think about. I just don't, or haven't.
Yeah. And one thing about autonomy that's hard to convey is just the scope of offerings available. Like you mentioned Phoenix Aurora, who's a graduate and a professional ethical salesperson. Like he'll come and do lectures. I think he did 9 or 10. Like he did a whole season, I think, in between the 2 seasons, just on sales. And during the course of this season, you get to do sales exercises and interview and other integration exercises with other students. Did you have any fears or mental blocks going into that? And how did you kind of evolve throughout the course of the season?
That's an interesting question because for some reason, I never had that mental block. And then when I think about it, I guess I've been on Zoom calls for a long time. I feel like prior me maybe would have been more shy to be on Zoom or just shy to be doing something similar to this. And but the integration exercises, even asking questions in class, like for some reason, maybe it was because I realized that everyone is pretty open-minded, not judgmental, brings being excellent to each other, being fair with each other. So I think that allows people to open up and share their ideas, however crazy other people might think it. It's there's no idea too crazy, or there's no thought too nuts. And I think that just you can let your guard down with the community. And so in the integration exercise, sales exercises, I can't recall one bad call, one awkward moment. Everyone's friendly, everyone's kind, everyone's willing to listen. As far as community wise, I think it's been great, been amazing.
Yeah, autonomy has a high bar. Be excellent to each other, no masters, no slaves. And so people who get into autonomy, they are showing up for themselves, and at the same time, they're not there to tear others down. And it sounds like that creates a very positive learning environment where even when you're practicing a new skill, whether it's sales or interviews, persuasive conversations, which we might have trouble in our daily lives, you want to learn where you're getting positive reinforcement,
Yeah.
So that was really nice to hear. Were there new offers or projects related to your business and your dream that you were developing during autonomy, or you've sensed how has autonomy helped you create some of those, or be on the path, because it is a long, the season's only about 3 months, but I like to see it as lifelong consequences or impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. I think some of the inspiration videos that are played, and some of the background of the education system and how you may have been taught in school, or trained in school, indoctrinated in school, and to going forward with what sales should be. And just I think you can approach life through a different lens. And I think even just knowing that you don't have to squeeze every dollar out of another person, that tactic. I mean, it's like, oh wow, like I think that changes more things than I'd like to admit, or knowing that you've kind of been indoctrinated in schools through so many hours. Like, okay, then you can, once you know a lot of these things, sometimes you catch yourself doing something that you're like, well, why am I doing that? And then hopefully, if you realize it more and more often, then you can change that kind of habit. And so, I mean, in terms of what I was trying to do, I was trying to sell some product and push some product, and I've tried some things. I haven't followed exactly everything to a T, but I think it has given me kind of like gumption to just to put myself out there, as opposed to hiding behind
Yeah.
hiding by the internet.
Right. Because you get enough reps and that builds confidence, and
Yeah.
then you're used to putting yourself out there, creates this virtuous feedback loop.
Yep.
Yeah. What I was hearing in your answer, I've experienced as well. Autonomy, you're sort of learning the tools of freedom, and then you find yourself, you're stopping playing the game society or your family or otherwise gave you. And then there's this moment of, oh, what should I do instead? And that takes time to figure out, right? It's not always like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this thing or that thing. It's like, oh, I'm free. It's just empowering to have that realization, sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, just like you said, those tools and helps you change your mindset. And you're not going to learn how to use these tools in one day, maybe not even a couple of months. But once you know that you have that tool and you know when you can use that tool or how to use that tool, I think that just pays back in dividends. Like even after going sales training so often, I sometimes I'll in the beginning I was like after a conversation I had, I was like, oh, that was a sales moment. Like I could have done that, and then to come later on, I was like, oh, might be a sales moment. I need to get my tools ready, or I need to get my mindset in check before I enter in, so I can. Not that I want to take advantage, but I want to be as persuasive or as possible, or I want to provide the best assistance to the other side as possible.
Right. Because the tools you're learning for sales and positive influence, mutual rapport, they can also be used against unethical salespeople. It sounds like, we've all dealt with people like that. But now that you're more aware of the sales process, do you have any stories that come to mind about just offers you get or interactions you've gone through that the tools from autonomy made you more aware of what was going on and made you maybe a bit less likely to get trapped?
Just so happens this past week been going through I guess we call it transaction, and I don't think I use my sales skills. I guess I don't have sales skills. I don't think I use my sales tools that very well. But uh, it, I think I was kind of forced into this transaction, and knowing maybe the other side wasn't playing that fair makes it kind of tough to want to stay and play fair. And yeah, it's hard to not want to squeeze back. But I think in the end, I tried to push myself as much as possible to, quote unquote, take the high road, and to still abide by ethical sales, because but I think that in the long run creates less tension, creates less issues. But I could have definitely used more sales. I think my partner who was also in the negotiations, reminded me quite a bit that, okay, well, we also need to think longer term, not just right now, to be
Yeah.
ethical.
For me, Richard's a really good example of this. And every week after the lecture, there's a Q&A portion, both that same night, and then there's another one Sunday midday. Did you get to interact much with Richard? And what was that experience like for you after listening to him on GDW for so long?
Yeah, it's always interesting. I never thought I would get what is called starstruck, but I don't want to say I was starstruck, but it's very interesting talking to someone that you've been listening to for a couple of years, and it's just like a normal voice in your head. And so when you're actually talking to that person, it's really interesting. He's just an idea machine. He's got so many ideas that you just never thought of, or he thinks that he can think about things in so many different angles through so many different lenses. And just being able to witness that and ask him questions, and he give you answers that, well, wow, you would have never thought of. Or, you would probably ask several other people to even get close to that answer. I think that was amazing.
Yeah, and people will ask all sorts of questions, both about the
Yeah.
lecture, about politics, about their life, career,
Yep.
and just like learning the way Richard thinks, like changes your own way of being, and that inspires me too.
Yep.
So yeah, I know I mentioned earlier if the audience has questions, I don't know if they're going to unmute and ask or raise a hand. What Richard tends to do is just let people unmute and race to see who will talk first. That can be difficult if you're not yet initiated into autonomy. But do you have a thought, James?
Well, people can unmute, they can ask their questions, and or if they're a little gun shy on that, they can type their questions into the chat, and I'll recite their question for them, and we can go from there.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, we covered the main questions, but for those of you who have something specific you'd like to ask Richard or just learn about autonomy from any of us graduates, feel free to unmute or write your question, raise your hand. Feel free to just jump in. And it's okay to interrupt us mid-sentence too, because Zoom is just a bit awkward like that.
Yeah, I think it's great. Sometimes Barry said it great in the chat. Sometimes you'd have to talk to yourself or talk with someone else, ask questions to someone else for you to really realize what your actual question is. And what your thoughts actually are. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I always have a question in mind and like Richard's talking. And then when it goes to me, I have to spend 30 seconds saying something else just to get my question out. It's weird how Zoom works. All right. Can I read this out from chat?
Go for it.
All right. So John T asks, what are some of the things you applied from what you learned in season 12? And yeah, are you still working on that business? And you mentioned the sales and marketing stuff. And I know you're a fresh graduate, but what have you done and what are you working on?
Yes. So I'm still working on that business. And I just think that sales in general, I kind of always go back to the sales exercises and the ethical sales. I've been selling some products, and two people have reached out to me to wholesale it, so to provide them wholesale. And the first one was, I can understand everyone wants the price down, get the price cheaper and get better prices. And the first person was trying to, I guess, squeeze a little more. And I pretty much stood firm on my pricing. And I know they could do more volume, but I think there's got to be a bottom line. I can't give them like half off or something. And the second person, who I knew would pay like anything that I asked, I still wanted to give them a fair deal. And I knew from what I was talking to him over the phone, he said, well, he's almost paying, he was getting it from somewhere else. And I think he was almost paying near retail of what the place was selling it for, and then just getting it in and charging an extra percent on top. And that just doesn't sit right with me. Maybe that the former me would be like, well, that's not fair, And now that I know that you try to go for fair, I still gave him what I thought was a fair price. And yeah, I think like that one video during class is like, everything is sales. It doesn't matter what you're doing, everything is sales. So just the sales in general.
So ethical sales doesn't mean being a pushover and just lowering your price to be nice, but it also doesn't mean taking advantage of people.
Yes.
How would you currently formulate what ethical sales means to you based on what you learned in autonomy?
Oh man.
Just in your own words.
Yeah.
I forget if there's an official definition, but then
I hope Richard Grove doesn't hear this. I guess very simply put, it's cheesy, but it's a win-win. Um,
Win-win.
if you want to have a long-term relationship with this, person, group, customer, business, you want to be fair. And if today, if you're say you're not quote unquote fair with them and they accept it, but then let's say 1, 2, 3 years later down the road and they figure out, well, oh my gosh, you could have charged me, half of what you were charging me, or another 20% off. I don't think they want to do business with you anymore. Um, I win-win, I guess you could say another way is you treat others how you want to be treated. Another cliche. And I think it's a lot of I think life comes or sales or maybe a lot of things in life boil down to very simple things that we probably already know, which it's just been filtered out by the noise. Wait, maybe that's the wrong way to say it. It's just been occluded by the noise.
Yeah, and I just in my own reflection, it's also identifying what's valuable to them and giving them that. Like you may be really good at something, you don't think that's valuable, but other people do, and they're happy to pay you for it. That can feel weird, right?
Yes, yeah, that's a very good point. And it's the ethical sales was very what was talked about was problem solving. Ethical sales is problem solving. You're there to help the other side solve their problems. And if you can't solve their problems, or if you don't think you can offer that solution, or that's your solution won't solve their problems, then you shouldn't make the quote unquote sale. And I think that's huge too, because a lot of people just want to push the sale to get money. And thank you for reminding me of that's another huge point that I learned.
Yeah, you reminded me too. Like it's instead of you start with a product and say buy it, buy it, buy it, you're saying, well, what's troubling you now, or how could I help, or have you tried? It's like you're collaborating on finding a
Yes.
solution, and maybe you have the answer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it goes back to where Richard Grove talks a lot about how you want to ask questions, you want to listen, you want to hear what the other side is looking for or needs, and what problems they have, and how your product or your solution may help or may not help. If it doesn't help, then you could politely decline the sale, or maybe you can direct them somewhere else to help them out. I guess in the end, your goal is to be a facilitator of helping them solve their problem, regardless if that's through your product or yourself, your solution, or someone else's. And I think that's just the way we all should treat each other in general.
Yeah. Facilitator. And I think a lot of people in the freedom community, people interested in individualism and ethics, they resonate with that mindset and that process of, I'm actually here to help you, right? It's like, how can I best serve you? And this would help you. Yeah, and how can you receive the value in turn so you can keep helping more and help yourself?
I remember I think it was during the later weeks, a video by Alex Hormozy, who, if you guys don't know, he started a lot of gyms and started selling, I guess, workout plans, or like coaches, workout coaches, and other products. And along with that, he said his number one I think it says it's like one of his number one sales. I guess it's kind of gimmicky, but at the same time, it just shows how much you as a salesperson trying to solve the other person's problem and show that you're on their side helps. Was that he said, okay, well, I'd like if you took like vitamins or these supplements A, B, and C, but you can get C cheaper over there, so you might as well just go buy it over there. And that customer would almost always buy the A and B from him, just because he showed that
reciprocity, right?
Yes, yes.
Earn their trust because he knows that'll increase the sales. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it gets, I guess that's a little gray area, but I think it just proves a point where no one wants to be on the other side of the table from you. Everyone wants to be on the same side and helping each other out. And like you said, the reciprocity thing. If like it's almost kind of like you scratch my back, I am willing to think about scratching your back.
Hmm. Yeah, something I've noticed in business, and it's so obvious, but you think about your business all day. The customer just has a need that to be filled, and to tell them all the technicalities and all the stuff isn't always of interest to them. Like they actually need that simplified version of, oh, just take this pill and you can get it down there, or here's a different one. It can be hard to get in the customer's mindset, but I guess having a conversation makes that easier as well.
Yeah.
And just everyone joining, welcome. It looks like the Minds of Men screening wrapped up. So welcome to Autonomy Quest. We're here with Richard Chang, and we're in the Q&A portion of the evening. Feel free to unmute and ask your question, or you can write it in chat. If you're, if you just took a shower and don't want to get on camera or something like that. And we've been talking a lot about ethical sales, and Richard's a fresh graduate of season 12, and season 13 is coming up pretty soon. So we're getting excited about that. And yeah, to summarize, I think the ethical selling and marketing was a big part of autonomy for Richard, and certainly is a core part of the curriculum. Yeah. So, Richard, I assume you heard about autonomy through Grand Theft World, and what we usually do is book a blueprint call with a graduate. Do you remember your call, and what was that like? And did you get your questions answered on that call?
Yes, I remember my call. It was with Olivia. It was. I think I was a very easy sale because I was like, I was pretty much already in. if Olivia let me in. Yeah, at that point, I was mainly in for the community. I thought,
yeah,
for some reason, I don't even think I knew that much about the community yet. But I even know how many students were in each season, or how many graduates there overall. I think Olivia did answer that, but I think the community really brought it home, and then the sales and learning ethical sales, learning to be a problem solver, or understanding that sales is problem solving, meeting great people from all over the world, having access to Richard Grove, twice a week, and just learning about how the world works, how interpersonal, or like relationships should work, and having inspiration videos all over to boot, and giving some kind of next steps if you wanted to promote your business, or you have an idea, how you start that business, and how to reach out, and how to properly do advertising online, how to properly market to different segments of the audience online. I think it's all very crucial, especially in today's environment. I think probably Richard Grove talks about this, that we're lucky to have the internet and have access to so many people at the same time. I guess there's downsides where, because privacy and stuff, but it's great to be able to know your customer and access them in a way.
Yeah, and in my opinion, autonomy, it's sold very authentically, just Richard talking and through conversations. I feel like, if Richard wanted to make 10 times as much money, he could use the standard tactics of pushing it on a lot of people, and you might get more sales. But one thing about autonomy, just like going to school, it's like, I've purchased a lot of different online courses, and this one was very different because it involves you directly. You're doing integration exercises, but you have to keep showing up and do the work yourself. It's not like you just watch some videos and life changes. Can you talk about, was it hard for you to show up? And also, were there anything unexpected you learned throughout the season in addition to that sales and marketing material?
It wasn't that hard for me to show up. I'm usually up late at night anyway, so I'm on the East Coast, and the Friday night lectures go pretty late, and that's fine for me. After the kids go to bed, it's easier for me to be quiet, or it's easier to be able to concentrate and to go in the class. So I wouldn't say that's hard. I think later on, after you do the integration exercise and you start doing the sales exercise, I think that's when a lot of things maybe I can see the wheels start falling off there because it adds another. It takes a bit to get comfortable doing those sales exercises and really. I wouldn't say I'm comfortable yet, but it does take some gumption to step up and do that, especially on Tuesday during the sales exercises where you're doing it in front of your peers essentially and getting feedback, live feedback, which is great, but it's also it's daunting. And something unexpected. I keep on going back to sales and marketing. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to think of something else.
Yeah, you did mention the unlearning, the
Yeah,
indoctrination of education and society. It sounds like that was pretty big for you.
yeah. I read a little bit of John Terragatto beforehand, and so I was somewhat familiar with that already. And I guess one thing that wasn't really expected is well, sometimes when you sign up for courses, there'll be big claims, I guess you would say. And it's usually those claims never really live up to the hype. Uh, but the interesting thing about autonomy was, I'm not saying I knew all this beforehand or I practiced all this beforehand, but it's really so simple. It's so basic. It's just we lose, or I guess I can't speak other people. It's so easy for me to lose sight of those basics. Because just get lost in the noise. I uh, I remember Richard Groves talking about how he was I guess one of his buddies asked him to teach him sales. He was like, okay, yeah, I can do it with you over a weekend or something, or a couple weekends or something. And I think the ideas are very basic. It just like everything else, it's like a muscle that needs to be trained, that needs to be worked on in order for it to be fully, know if we actually use it effectively.
Yeah. So, as we start to wrap up, what type of people do you recommend take the next step at this point and book a call with a graduate to look more? Do you know? Do you feel autonomy is for everyone, or do you need to be at a certain place in life? How would you describe that?
I I think the education and knowledge that's provided, I don't think you I think you could be in high school or middle school and take it. I mean, some things might go over your head, or your peers won't be talking about that stuff at that age. But I think it's so important to get some this experience or knowledge earlier on, so you can at least it's running through your head as you're every day as you're going older. Or you might take the course this year, but something doesn't come up, but something doesn't really hit you until next year or 2 years later, 3 years later. Like, oh, that's what was taught in the course. That's what Grove was harping on so long ago. And I mean, if my kids were old enough and whatever, I think I'd send them to the course. I just think there's so much basic knowledge that's constantly overlooked that needs to be taught earlier on, as early as possible. So you can, at least it's there kind of in your brain, just waiting to, it's like a seed waiting to sprout. I don't know if that makes sense, but I guess I wouldn't say it's for everyone. I would say if you're willing to, as was talked about, show up, and if you're willing to put in the effort to do it, I guess like all things, it takes work, and sometimes working out sucks. But if you want to get better, I don't think it's I'm not saying it's like, 80% bad and 80% suck and 20% good. I'm saying it's probably like 90%, 95%.
Richard, I was always very impressed by you in season 12 and the workouts that
Oh,
you did. You always took the time and put the effort in, and you put yourself out there, and you used the tools that you had at your disposal to work on the things that you were doing. And that was very impressive.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the feedback. That's very encouraging. I yeah, I think there's always going to be anything you do in life, even if you enjoy it, there's always going to be a part of it that you're not gonna enjoy. But I think the 80/20 rule or something, you're the overall, if you step back and look at it, I think you'll enjoy what you've accomplished, and hopefully the bad has washed out.
Do you
Or is
do
sorry,
you
go
have
ahead.
a gift at figuring out what needs to be done and how to do it? It seems like you really are on track with, getting your offer built, finding the tools that you need, learning how to use them, and then putting them into action. Is that one of your gifts?
I am of Chinese descent and grew up in a Chinese household, and I was not very confidence was not something to be built up in my household. So I don't I can't I don't admit to having any gifts, to be honest. I
But analytics and intelligence, right? That it seems like you're applying a lot of action to analytics and intelligence, and you're hitting the right marks. And it seems to be a gift to me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Compliments were a rarity in my household, so I I'm, I don't know how to really accept compliments, but I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You deserve it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Richard, I want to add too that I appreciate having watched you in public meetings where you're very reflective, open-minded, very organized in the way you kind of handle issues or questions, the way you answer things, kind of easy and intellectual. I'm kind of been sorry that I haven't had the opportunity to meet with you because I thought it would be a very interesting meeting. So maybe some later time.
Yeah, for sure. Always free. Set up a goal with autonomy, people.
Great.
Okay, just want to open the floor again for any last questions for Richard Chang tonight. Feel free to unmute.
Well, did you ask Richard? Hi, Carl, by the way. Hello. It's great to see you.
Nice to hear you.
Thank you. Um, Richard, are you going to join season 13?
I will have to play by ear.
Okay.
I have to see what's going on. Something just popped on my plate this past week, and I guess it was all in the cards, but I was I
Are,
was fighting it.
are we going to see a webinar or a course in autonomy events from Richard Chang soon?
I wouldn't hold your breath.
All right. Well, I'm going to cross my fingers then.
All right.
Yeah, but that is something we help people do because there's lots of opportunity online to market and offer a service. you have. And part of doing that is having a website, a course, or a webinar just to educate people about that. And yeah, as Leah said, you can come back in future seasons, and some of us then volunteer as graduate guides. We help the new students, and you can still participate in the lectures, things like mastermind groups and the integration exercises. So, when you join the autonomy community, you'll have your class of freshmen, so to speak, but there'll also be alumni there, and obviously admin, and yeah, the community's grown quite substantial over 12, coming up on 13 seasons now. And just before anybody starts moving on to the next thing, I want to tell you a bit about the enrollment process for Autonomy. So you're welcome to come back to Autonomy Quest, which will be every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. There'll be other interviews like this, and that helps just get different perspectives on what it's like to go through Autonomy, and you're welcome to join every time. When you're ready to learn more, your next step is to book a Blueprint for Success strategy call with a graduate. And you can either do a quick one if you're just getting up to speed on what is autonomy and could this be right for me. So you can schedule a 15-minute call, or you can chat for up to an hour, and we'll really try and get to know you and recommend if autonomy is the right fit for you. If so, you'll receive an invitation to join, and you'll learn all about that on the call. But the type of graduates you meet are people like me, like James, and like Richard, just regular people wanting to do great things in the world and eager to share the tools and skills we've learned in autonomy with new people such as yourself. And as I promised, we also have a few links to free gifts, talks, and seminars by Richard, and the 19 Essential Skills for Success downloadable PDF, which tells you all about what's inside of autonomy and those 19 skills that really set you free. And then Richard has 3 seminars called Mindset 1, 2, and 3. The first one is about anti-fragility, which just means getting better through adversity instead of letting it break you down, learning to set goals. The second one is just leveling up your personal mindset. And the third one focuses on one of Richard's favorite terms, intellectual self-defense, which is how to be immune to mind viruses and manipulation and ill will from others as you go throughout the world. Again, thank you, Richard Chang, tonight's guest.
No problem.
I see Jerry's on the floor. Do you got a question, Jerry? I want to hear from you.
I do. I just thought of this, so pardon me if, it's a question way out there, but in season 12, I actually clipped out a section of Richard Chang interacting with Richard Grove, where he says that the lecture was spot on, and they talked about imposter syndrome. And I sent that clip to James in case you guys want to play it. Maybe we can just see a highlight.
Oh, man.
We'll see if we can do it live, but no promises from my end.
That sounds confusing.
Yeah, we could just recreate it right here.
It sounds like Jerry's going to be into the deep fake face swapping like Danny Polischuk. When I go on Danny's show on Monday night, I'm going to ask him how he does those videos, because he has the most seamless kind of deep fake AI funny videos out there, and I want to learn that secret. Then I'll tell you how to do it, Jerry. That's not permission to do it. I'm just saying that's how to do it.
Oh, I would be very grateful, Richard.
Richard, how was the screening tonight? I missed it. It looked really cool.
The screening was excellent and awesome, but I was really excited when I tapped into this meeting and I saw first Carl, and I was like, "What's up, Carl? It's so nice to see you, bro." And then I saw Richard Chang, and I was like, "Oh, this has to be a growth experience for him to be in front of a live audience. Oh, it's not even just like in a dojo of friendlies. Like there's people here you've never met before. Does that cause you anxiety?
Not gonna lie, it wasn't as easy as doing it in front of in front of class or doing it.
But it's not that different either, right? And you did it, and you were awesome. Like you were, very much your authentic, genuine self. And I also wanted to point out for you specifically, I'm recording a presentation tomorrow, and the fruits of that presentation are something that I think you'll really be pleased with, especially given like the little insights on how you were brought up that you disclosed tonight. Learning how to take a compliment is a good first step. And then these other steps that I'm going to lay out tomorrow, I think will be very empowering and refreshing to you.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Is that going to be in season 13?
I mean, if you're doing something more productive, that sounds like a good excuse, bro.
Oh, is it tomorrow?
No. This is just, it's a new lecture I did for autonomy, but it's going to be a lecture I'm going to give away to everyone for free. So it's not going to be behind the paywall. And it's on like fear is optional and who you become when you learn how to set it aside consciously. Irrational fears, not, you could still be scared of tigers. That's legit, bro. I'd be scared of tigers too. But the other stuff that they precipitate on us to control us, it could be liberated very quickly.
That's so great. Like I always think about how can I communicate what autonomy is to someone who hasn't been through it yet. And I think the best way is like it's not a 12-week course, it's a new way of life. Because you go through the course, but you're now part of this new world and community, and you've got new skills, and there's these lectures dropping, and there's these events going on. So it's not just like a little entrepreneurship course, but that's just the on-ramp to this.
But unlike Hotel California and cults, you can leave anytime you want and you can come back anytime you want. And we're still learning and doing stuff, and freedom is the thing. And so I know like it can sound intimidating. And I'm always like, well, where do you lose your free will in this system? It's like, no, this is recognizing the whole world's a system of removing your free will. This is where you get to go start putting it back and rebuilding those relationships that are worthwhile. And I always tell students, don't spend more than 10% of your time per week. Like this isn't supposed to be 90% of your time. It's supposed to be a small change with big effects.
Yeah, it's definitely a non-cult. Like that's how you know it's a success. Like you don't all have to act the same way and do the same thing. You each discover your own way of manifesting the principles.
We don't even have to agree.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is it's not a group of like-minded people. It's a group of people with a similar interest, right? If I go to the gun range, that's a group of people with a similar interest. We could all get in fights about politics or whatever, so you don't do those things. You practice your marksmanship and you don't discuss things that make people angry or emotional, right? So like there's a time and place that we need to do these things to fortify ourselves, but the regular world, the normie world, they don't give us the time and place to integrate all the information we could be to getting better at the game of life, as it were. So
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad everyone from the screening filtered in here for the Q&A and the open floor section of this talk. And just to remind anyone who is tuning in for the first time, we've got our free gift links in the chat, and those will be sent to your email as well. Come back and visit Quest again. And when you're ready, book your blueprint call and check out the Autonomy Primer course, which will give you a taste of things to come. And again, thank you, Richard Chang, James Cordner, and Autonomy staff and everyone who showed up tonight. It was great to see all of you.
Hey, speaking of me, I have a question for Richard Chang.
Okay.
Richard Chang,
Yes,
you're
sir.
a dad, right?
Yes, sir.
What was it like, joining the autonomy course and taking the commitment to doing this course as a father? What sort of elements that are baked into the course put your mind at ease to allow you to come in and be a productive member of the community and participate in the course? if that makes sense.
My wife.
But like more specifically, like
Yeah.
what about what was it about the course itself that you saw as a no, oh, this is a no-brainer. I can do this even as a father.
I don't know. I never really looked at it that way as something of a challenge to complete. I just thought it was something that I wanted to learn. And I think once you want that something, you'll make it happen. Hopefully, your spouse and kids can cooperate and work with you, and it'll happen. I think the flexibility is another thing that of autonomy, where you don't have to be there for live classes, although it's probably encouraged. And I didn't see having kids what was a big issue, but that could also be that I'm also more flexible with my work schedule, and it was just something that I wanted to do, and so I would make time to do it. I don't know if that's a good answer to your question.
No, I think so. I appreciate that. You mentioned being flexible, and even if you weren't there for the live lecture, we got more than one Q&A every week.
Mm-hmm.
And the integration exercises, there's people from all over the globe.
Yeah.
Did that aspect of the diversity amongst the students in terms of their location, did that help you at all?
I don't want to say it helped.
I'm sorry, let me finish the question.
Sorry.
Did that help you perform the integration exercises? I should have asked.
No, I wouldn't say it helped. I wouldn't say it hurt. I just went through the season list, and whoever had a link up, I just submitted a calendar, or I submitted a request to do the integration exercises. I thought it was quite interesting that I felt like I didn't see the people. Obviously, not everyone had time to show up in class or could make it to live lectures, and I feel like I thought I did like quite a few integration exercises, but then in class I was looking for something like I guess most of them were watching the replays.
All right, duly noted, because Carl's trying to close the meeting, but I'm going to do to Cordner what Cordner just did to Chang. Hey, Cordner, how has autonomy helped you be a better father and a better husband? For Chang's entertainment, I asked that question.
What it's done for me personally is it's helped me listen better. It's helped me really have like some more present moment awareness and show up and be a better participant in the household. There was a certain lack of empathy that I had before taking autonomy, and that I've learned to be able to have by engaging with active listening and asking the right questions and really getting to the heart of the matter when there's maybe a conflict or there is a misunderstanding. So at the end of the day, like it's just really helped me open up my mind to other people's perspectives, and it's really just been such a blessing to be able to learn that in autonomy, because you go in thinking that it's just like, I'm going to learn how to do business, and there's so many other life skills that you take away from it that are just like put in front of you that you don't even realize that you're acquiring until you start applying it with all the sorts of various relationships that you have with the people in your surroundings. And so that's what I would say. That's my best answer to your question.
Great answer.
Well played. Richard Chang, thank you. Carl, thank you. Jerry and Leah and Martin, everyone else who made it possible. Thank you.
all.
See you guys next week. And see some of you Sunday night. Grand Theft World.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up
Good night,
for
guys.
Autonomy Quest.
Good night. See you around.
Go forward with excellence. See you next time.